This thing, the Your Eternal Reward. Your for short. Maybe it's good, maybe it's not, I don't really know. When initially planning out this video, I was expecting amazing results from the Your Eternal Reward, since it's always been my go-to for getting huge kill streaks and big impact plays in a pinch. And now, to put it lightly, my experience with this weapon has been a roller coaster. Before I go too much in depth, let's fill everyone in on the stats. Well, to start, with the Year, every backstab you get will instantly disguise you as whoever you killed, which is a pretty situational and mediocre stat in its own. But when paired with its next positive stat, Silent Killer, this turns into a really powerful chain stabbing weapon that would rely heavily on the spy's ability to act and use efficient disguises. Of course though, since this is TF2, the more interesting and experimental the weapon, the more impeding its downsides are. And of which we have two. One is a 33% faster cloak drain rate, which, okay, it's obviously pointing us towards relying more on our disguises to be effective, but then we have the stat which most people agree kills this weapon. Every time you disguise, no matter who you disguise as, all of your cloak will be completely emptied, and if you don't have a full cloak meter, you can't disguise at all. I'm getting some mixed signals here, Valve. Do you want me to disguise with this weapon or not? This stat turns one of Spy's most plentiful resources into something that has to be cherished as if it's your most powerful attack, and you only have one chance to use it effectively. Because if you miss a stab, even if you live, there's a good chance you'll have to make a play with no disguise at all, which doesn't seem too hard at first, but when you realize how many factors are made easier by having a disguise, being without one can make you feel almost naked. Well, okay, this is obviously meant to be a hyper-precise knife that lacks consistency, but when you make a play, it'll be destructive thanks to the fact that nobody will hear the stat. Why did you turn around? Yeah, when I say precise, I really mean precise. And that's mainly because of this stat right here. Yup, Silent Killer. This stat on paper is a game changer. A tool that immediately throws off your reaction since you can't hear anything, except for, well, your knife still makes slashing and hit sound effects. Meaning that it still immediately triggers the turn around there's a spy behind you reaction in experienced players. And if you thought that wasn't enough of a nerf to this stat, for some reason this gets nerfed even harder if someone in your chain has ragdolls on. Because sometimes the ragdoll can just launch right in front of the next person in line before it disappears. Which, I don't know about you, but if I saw the ghost of one of my teammates fly in front of me accompanied by a knife sound, I don't think I'd trust whoever my teammate is now. This kind of makes it a version of the stock knife at this point, only you have the chance to get a bad disguise and be slow, or to have no disguise at all. On top of that, you're going to have very significantly less cloak. This does not leave you with very much to work with, to say the least. And my testing was not going very well either, as I was getting angrier and angrier with every game, dying more and more. All the while I wasn't even supporting my team much since I was too focused on trying to figure out how to use the Ur. Now that's not to say I had no success with it, because when you're at the right place at the right time with this weapon, it can absolutely destroy even the most experienced of teams. And even if your deaths start to add up, all it takes is one good life to get your KD back on track. Like, look here, my team is suffering massive casualties during this point fight, and there's a very high chance we would have just been rolled through to the next point before we could even set up. But I happened to decloak at the perfect time where blue was still fighting the remainder of my team, and all that was left was a really scrappy point fight where I could slide in as one of them and start stabbing. And even after that demo pick, no one saw me, so I was able to get a soldier pick right after and a scout pick following. This clip really went on for longer than it had the right to. If only I could make every time I use this weapon a rare high moment. According to my calculations, Spy might actually possess the tools to farm for kill streaks over and over again. All we'd have to do is really lean into that playstyle of not revealing himself until the perfect moment to make this thing effective. Meaning we are going to want to choose some very campy weapons for Spy. In slot number 1 we have the L'étranger, for that extra 40% cloak duration that completely removes this negative stat from the Ur, plus adding a little bit on top of that. And since with the Ur we won't be going for gunplays anyway, the damage reduction on the L'étranger doesn't really affect much of our gameplay in here. Now on our second stat, alongside the L'étranger, we've chosen the campiest weapon in the game to join the squad. To no one's surprise, the Cloak and Dagger is the perfect fit for what we're going for here. This allows us to choose our plays and think a lot more before going in, at the cost of being a bit limited in movement. I'd say the downside is pretty worth it though, since if you end up in the wrong place with the Ur and you're in stock invis watch, that could very easily be curtains. Because how are you supposed to adapt to running out of cloak in the middle of the enemy team while disguised as a heavy? Yeah, you won't. Oh, also you can disguise while cloaked with the Cloak and Dagger. And of course, to cap it off, the most important part of the strategy filling up our final slot will be patience. Yep, use whatever sapper you want, as long as it's the red tape. Patience. Something that I suck at using is of course the most important part of play here. I'll be the first to admit that this weapon challenged my playstyle a bit, since I'm a player that always wants something to do, which means I'm always helping my team with something in my lives, whether that's getting teleporters or just hard focusing the sniper, but I won't always get a super flashy high impact play. So being forced to sit in place and watch wasn't exactly my strong suit, to say the least. I just had to sit and watch so many opportunities at good plays slip past me while I waited for the perfect opportunity. And well, came it did. Saying this thing gives you highs would be an understatement. When this knife works, it works. Where other knives would get 1 kill, the Year Eternal Reward gets 5. The Year gives you a massive boost to your kill streaks. Now I know what you guys are wondering, didn't I just say it was broken? Well, it's kinda broken most of the time because of the things I mentioned earlier with sound bugs and ragdoll. So most times in a casual setting, I'll just use it for sentry nests or for goofing around so that I can take advantage of my more aggressive playstyle. But I'm not talking about a casual setting anymore. What if I told you we could exploit a comp player's biggest strengths? Their shitty graphics and their competitive calls. Shut the fuck up! Oh, as many of you know, most comp players tend to run their games at low graphics settings to optimize their frame rates on mid. Their shit graphics isn't what seals the deal though. They also have ragdolls disabled most times, which means no ghost corpse shenanigans can happen to give you away. Well, what about the noise bug, I can hear you asking? Well, what tiny oversights are you going to be able to hear when this is what your ears sound like at any given moment?
Med down, push. Metric 21, metric 0, metric 0.
Hear that luscious sound with the fact that most people aren't going to turn around unless they hear their teammates scream, since it's not really worth it to take your eyes off the enemy unless you know you'll die for sure. And the other fact that guns, well, you know, they make noise. Hey, can we turn it down a bit? And I think we've gotten the perfect weapon for reminding comp teams that they're not playing COD. And I already know you're going to ask what happens if they turn around. And before I answer that, you've been asking a lot of questions. Why not save a few for the comments? After you like the video. Which should come after you hit the subscribe button. If the enemy turns around, you should make like a politician and deny any and all accusations of assault by lying straight to their face. Exploiting yet another quirk of comp players that tend to be very quick and try to condense as many words as they can into 1 or 2 words. Now I don't know about you guys, but I think it's pretty hard to vocalize.
Hello team, I appear to have been backstabbed by a spy wielding the Your Eternal Reward, Year for short, and he has now assumed my position on the battlefield. Please shoot at me, or them.
So most people just resort to spy me, spy got me, or my personal favorite, spy. And I don't know if you guys can tell, but it's hard to grab all that information from just a few words. So if I'm a comp player that just saw my teammate right behind me, and I heard their voice barely giving any information other than spy, so I turn around to see them still there looking for spy, phew, good thing my teammate was there to keep watch for me. The mind games are by far my favorite part of this weapon. It's just so fun to get kill after kill while their team has no idea what's going on. And it kind of just leads to a chain effect of cluelessness until you finally realize your entire team is gone. When you get a stab with this weapon, it turns into a completely different game as you have to try and adapt to wherever your new position is to buy some more time to not get cut out. All in all, this knife turns spy into a much more unique experience and really turns up the infamous spy syndrome. Sure, you might only be able to get 1 play before dying, but that play has the potential to be much bigger. And let's say you don't want to go for massive kill streaks. That's alright, you can still pick people off 1 by 1, resetting your position every time thanks to that silent killer masking your presence. The Year can really force you into making some weird and creative plays to do things you might not have thought of with any other knife. So, my final take on the Year Eternal Reward is... it's pretty underrated. While it's not my #1 weapon of choice for spy, it gets a lot more flack than it deserves and makes spy better at getting those high impact plays when the time arises. Sure, its playstyle can take some time to get used to and it can be inconsistent when used for too long, but it also forces you to get creative with your plays, which makes this one of the most rewarding knives for me. I probably won't run this full time very often, but when my team needs that extra boost, I'll pull this out as a nice mix-up tool to catch the enemy off guard and, well, delete their team. Again though, this weapon isn't perfect and I could definitely give it some stat changes to help clean it up. So let me know if a spy stat changes video is something you guys would want to see. And before we wrap it up here, I'd just like to thank you guys for the support in my last video. And I'll do my best to continue to release quality content in a timely manner for you guys. For now though, if you'd like a little extra dose of CyberWizard in your life, be sure to join my Discord server, follow my Twitter, follow my Twitch, and /or you can support me through Patreon and get some extra perks. Hope you enjoyed and I'll see you guys next time.